Hallelujah. So today we're going to be taking a look at Exodus, and we're going to be taking a look at chapter number 16 in particular. So Exodus 16, and it's such a timely message. You know, I didn't even realize it until after I was into it. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, we're just coming off of unleavened bread, and chapter 16 is all about manna. Yes. You know, we're just talking about, you know, how Yahshua is that true manna, and, you know, and all this, that, and the other. I was just like, you know, yeah, wow, yeah, this is Yah, you know, this is Yah. I couldn't say no, I had to do it. Okay, so with no further ado, we're gonna jump into this. Okay. A little focus there. Exodus 16:1. And it reads, well, Exodus 16:1 through 3. Let me have my first reader read Exodus 16:1 through 3, please.
And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after the departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.
Hallelujah. All right. You know, so first thing I looked at, said, well, they took their journey from Elim, you know, and so that's what I'm like, okay, well, what is Elim? You know, so Elim is strong trees or palms, you know, and so they came from Elim, you know, and they came into the wilderness of Sin, you know. Now, wilderness speaks to an arrangement in a sense of driving. It's midbar in the Hebrew, you know, and it speaks to an arrangement in the sense of driving, to propel, to carry along by force, okay? And sin, you know, speaks to clay, which is symbolic of our flesh. You know, so we look at verse 2 says that the whole congregation of the children of Israel were murmuring against Moshe and against Aaron. Moshe's name means drawn out, and Aaron's name means light bringer. Now, when we put this in perspective, you know, we consider Israel, they're just coming out of Mitzrayim, okay? They're just coming out of Mitzrayim. This is only 1 month after they've come out, you know, to the day, actually, you know, 1 month after. Now, as you all heard me say previously, Israel can be likened unto a newborn believer. You know, them coming out of Mitzrayim can be likened unto one coming out of the world. Amen? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, and even as ancient Israel followed Moshe out of Mitzrayim, you know, we're to follow Yahushua out of the world. Amen? Yes. Okay, so, that being said, here it is, we have a picture of what happens when we come out of the world. Because it's going to be the same way, it's going to be the same thing as what happens, or what happened rather, when they came out of Mitzrayim. Okay? Now, Mitzrayim or Egypt speaks to bondage. How many of you know that Israel is still in bondage today? You know, that those of the world are in bondage. They're in bondage to the world. It's a terrible bondage. And the sad part is most of them don't even realize it. You know. But that's a different chapter. another book. But here it is. Elim means strong trees or palms. Okay, so they're coming from the strong trees or palms. So, you know, here it is. They came out of Mizraim with a strong arm. The strong arm of Yahuwah, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and likewise with the followers of Yahshua, you know, and all these wonderful miracle signs and wonders, you know, the strong arm of Elohim, they come out. See, and likewise, a newborn believer comes out of the world and, you know, and Yah's doing a miraculous work in their lives. Amen. You know, they're following the Most High. Okay. And, you know, so they're strengthened as trees, you know, because Scripture looks at us as trees. You know, when Yahshua healed the blind man, he said, what do you see? He said, I see men walking as trees. Okay, and then they're palm trees, so it speaks of righteousness or uprightness. So we're talking about upright men. Okay, they're strong and upright. I like that. They're strong and upright. Okay, but they're journeying from being strong and upright into the wilderness of sin. Okay, so wilderness spoke to an arrangement in the sense of driving, to propel, to carry along by force. Sin spoke to clay or flesh. So the wilderness of sin speaks to an arrangement that Yah puts you in to force your flesh. Can you see that?
Yep. Yeah.
You know, see, I want you to understand this, BC, because you're going to come out of the world, you're going to follow Yahshua out of the world, and you're going to be a strong believer. You're going to be walking in righteousness. And then Yah is going to bring you from that point, and he's going to bring you into the wilderness of sin. He's going to bring you into a place where your flesh is forced, is driven by force. You know, a place where you have to force your flesh into submission to the word of Elohim. Amen?
Yes.
Okay, so when this happened, verse 2 tells us what happened in response to that. It says the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured. They began murmuring. They didn't like that at all. But who are they murmuring against? Even Moshe and Aaron. Moshe, whose name means drawn out, and we know what he did. He was drawn out of the water, even as, you know, Yah draws his men that he's going to use out of the water or out of the peoples. And then he utilizes them to draw others of his people out of the water. You know, hence the Messiah, you know, he made fishermen who he drew them out of the water, and then he taught them to fish and draw others out of the water. Amen. Okay, so, and Aaron, which means light bringer. So we have one that's drawn out of the water, drawn out of the peoples, you know, to draw others out and to be their light bringer. Okay, so they began to murmur against them, you know, and you know that's not the right thing to do. And verse 3 said that they quoted them saying that would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Mitzrayim. You know, see, the whole problem was they had to force, Yah was trying to force their flesh into submission, and he was doing it with fasting. See, he put them on a fast, he just didn't tell them about it. You know, but he put them on a fast. You know, and so they began to get hungry. See, he was forcing their flesh. You wanna know how to force your flesh into submission? That's what fasting is all about. He put them on a fast. And so they began to murmur and complain, and they said, we sat by the flesh pots and we did eat bread to the full. You brought us out here to kill us with hunger. You know, see, but they didn't understand the larger work, see, because Elohim don't always explain himself. You know, you said you wanted to follow him, he's leading you. You know, and so here it is, he brings you out into the wilderness of sin. You have to go through the wilderness of sin. You can't circumvent the wilderness of sin. You're going to have to go through the wilderness of sin, and in this wilderness of sin, he's going to cause your flesh to to fast. Now, he fasted them with hunger. You know, yours may be hunger for money. Or maybe it's hunger for a job. Or maybe it's hunger for a house. Or maybe it's hunger for a car. Starting to get the picture? You know, but your flesh is going to go on a fast. You know, that's inevitable. If you're following Yah, that's inevitable. So I want you to understand that. Okay, verses 4 and 5. My next reader, please.
Then said Yahuwah to Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. And it came to pass on the 6th day, they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily.
Hallelujah, thank you. I thought I missed something. Okay, no. Okay, so Yahuwah tells Moshe, you know, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. You know, see, Yah is not going to let you starve. He's your heavenly Father. So, you know, as your Father, He cares for you. He loves you. He is not going to do anything to harm you. He knows because you go without, you know, for a while, because your flesh goes without for a while, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. Yeah, so He will let you starve for a while. He will put your flesh on a fast so that He can force it into submission. And guess what? It's not going to kill you. You know, so when the time is right, He'll rain bread from heaven for you. It says, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day. You know, now I want you to check out verse 4, because He says, I will rain bread from heaven for you. But He also says why He's going to do it. Not to satisfy your flesh, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my Torah or no. See, I want you to know that He gets you nice and hungry, and then He satisfies that hunger to see whether or not you're going to walk in His will. That is huge. I don't know if y'all know how huge that is. You know, see, this is a picture of them coming out of the world. So they come out of the world and they become this strong, upright believer. Amen. You know, and then Yah takes them into a place where He forces their flesh into submission. He fasts their flesh, you know, from the things that it wants most. And then He gives it to them. But He gives it to them under the guise of testing the flesh to see whether or not it's truly in submission yet. So you see, He said, I will bring bread from heaven from you. I will satisfy your flesh, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my Torah or no. That's profound. That's profound in all actuality. You know, He gonna starve you out, then give you what you want, then tell you you can only eat it in a certain way. You know, to see if you're gonna listen. It's before you, but you can only do it my way. And He want to see if you're gonna listen. A lot of people flunk this test, you know that, right? Yeah. You know, but nevertheless. Okay, so now this bread that He brings down from heaven, I don't want you to get it twisted. You know, it is to prove them, and it is to prove their flesh. You know, it's to prove them, to see if they've submitted their flesh unto Him. If they're going to force their flesh to do what He said, or if they're going to let their flesh have its way with them. Okay, Yochanan 6:31-33 says, our fathers did eat manna in the desert, and as it is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. And Yahushua said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moshe gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of Elohim is He which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. You know, now, he also said that on the sixth day he should prepare, and that twice as much. On the sixth day it shall be twice as much, right? Okay, so now I want to see how astute you are. With what we've learned thus far, what can we determine about the sixth day? Say triangle.
It's 6 days from the 15th.
Okay, let's go over this a little bit again. Okay, we're told that he's gonna rain bread. Yochanan 6, teaches us what that bread is. Amen. All right. So now, with the understanding of what that bread is, what can we determine about the sixth day? What you say?
We're supposed to gather twice as much on the sixth day?
Yes, we've gathered twice as much on the sixth day. But what does that mean? Yes, he is. But what does that mean? Yes, it's for, okay.
Day
What'd you say,
23.
Jay? Yeah, but no. Okay, let's break this down. Okay. Yochanan 6:32. Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moshe gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the true bread of Elohim. This is the true bread of Elohim. Pay attention. Verse 33. The true bread of Elohim is he which cometh down from where? Heaven. That's the true bread of Elohim. Okay, so that we know. So with knowing that, what does that say about the sixth day? Yes, but we're talking about the bread in particular.
Consume twice as much.
Right? So if twice as much is going to be given on the sixth day, we're going to have twice as much what?
Work.
Okay, I guess I
Food.
better just tell you.
Yep.
Okay, here it is.
Twice as much bread.
For the bread of Elohim is he which cometh down from heaven. So, a man that comes down from heaven is equal to what? The bread of Elohim. Now, we know that man that came down from heaven was Yahshua, right?
Correct.
That was the first day. But the sixth day is coming when there shall be twice as much. So if the first day represented one man that came from heaven, then the sixth day represents twice as much. Two men that come from heaven.
2 witnesses.
The two witnesses, absolutely. They come from heaven. That's what the bread of Elohim, it is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. The first time it was Yahshua, but on the sixth day it's going to be the two witnesses. Two men that come from heaven as the bread of Elohim and giveth life unto the world. But far.
So,
All right. Okay, so this passage also that we're reading also speaks to the end time prophecies.
yes.
It speaks to the Messiah who came, but it also speaks to the two witnesses who will come. Can you see that?
Okay.
All right. And
Yeah. He's there, Steve.
Oh, Kurt looked at the screen.
I don't know if Yahushua was crucified on the sixth day. He may have been, but my mind's not there.
Passover is on the 6th day.
Yeah, it's on the 14th. Yeah, that would have been the sixth day.
That was gonna be my guess.
Okay. He says, I give power to my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 score days, clothed in sackcloth. The Messiah's his ministry was 3.5 years. These two witnesses, their ministry is 3.5 years. You know, it says, these are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the Elohim of the earth. Okay, you know, now they stand before the Elohim of the earth, which is in the heavens. These 2 witnesses come from the heavens. You know, they will be the bread of Elohim in the end times, even as the Messiah was the bread of Elohim when he came. All right, verses 6 through 9. My next reader, please.
And Moshe and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, at even then you shall know that Yahuwah hath brought you out from the land of Mitzrayim. And in the morning then you shall see the glory of Yahuwah, for that he heareth your murmurings against Yahuwah. And what are we that we murmur against us? And Moshe said, this shall be when Yahuwah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that Yahuwah heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. And Moshe spake unto Aaron, saying to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before Yahuwah, for he hath heard your
grumblings.
Oh,
Grumblings.
murmurings.
murmurings.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't show up. It's showing up on. Yeah.
See a little
But anyway, so we see it says, Moshe and Aaron said unto the children of Israel, at even, then ye shall go, then ye shall know that Yahuwah hath brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. At even, this word even is a reb in the Hebrew, number 6153. It means to grow dusky at sundown. Okay, so it's when things start getting dark. Now, now that we already know that this also speaks to the end time prophecies, you know, we can connect the dots, so to speak, you know, as to when evening will be. In Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of heavens shall be shaken. Okay, so we see that this is a time when it will get dark, you know, immediately after the tribulation. So also Mark 13:24, but in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. So we can see the tribulation is as the even. It's when things will begin to grow dusky. It's when things will begin to get dark, you know, right after that, just like right after the even, things get dark. You know, so now if you want to follow along, you know, this is what Yah has done, and this is what he's doing. You know, and so it's important to understand that. So verse 7 said, in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of Yahuwah. You know, and verse 8 says, speaks to Moshe and Aaron because they were murmuring against them. You know, these are the ones, they're just the ones that was drawn out of the world to be light bringers to Israel. You know, and they're murmuring against them. You know, but they're saying, you know, what are we? We're nothing. We're nothing. Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. You know, when you murmur against Yah's servants, you're actually murmuring against him. Because if they're truly his servants, then they're only doing what he told them. They're serving him. You know, and so Moshe spake unto Aaron and said unto all the congregation of Israel, come near before Yahuwah, for he hath heard your murmurings. You know, you murmur long enough, Yah gonna hear you. Now sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes that can be a bad thing. You know, so I would caution you in doing so. Let me have my next reader read Exodus 16:10 through 12.
And it came to pass, as Aaron spoke unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahuwah appeared in the cloud. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, speak unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim.
Hallelujah. Okay, so here it is. It says in verse 10 that, behold, the glory of Yahuwah appeared in the cloud. You know, and we're talking about connecting it with the end times. You know, likewise, the glory of Yahuwah will appear in a cloud. You know, Luke 21:27, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and with great glory. And Matthew 16:27, for the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. You know, so we see the Son of Man, our Messiah, Yahshua, is the glory of his Father, and he will come in the cloud. You know, so it's going to happen the same way. You know, and it's happening in the interim as well. You know, now verse 12 said, at even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread. You know, so at even ye shall eat flesh. So Yahuwah is telling them, you know, in that even, that they should eat flesh, and in that morning they will be filled with bread. You know, and I want you to know, we already made the connection that our Messiah is that true manna. Amen.
Yeah.
You know, so I want you to see that he actually came, that he actually gave that manna, that became that true manna, or gave that his flesh in the night. You know, and he was that flesh that was given in the evening. Yochanan 9:4 and 5 says, I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. So when he was here, it was during the day. Amen.
Yes.
You know, he goes on to say, the night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So he's saying, you know, while he was here, he was the light of the world. It was day. But when he left, the night came. You know, so he gave his flesh for us to eat in the evening. Can you see that? You know, Yochanan 6:51, you know, I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I give for the life of the world. Okay, so at even, Yahuwah gave Israel flesh to eat. That flesh that he gave to eat was our Messiah, Yahushua, i.e. his commandments, words, and sayings. Amen?
Yes.
Now, he says also, in the morning ye shall be filled with bread. Amen?
Yeah.
You know, so verse 13 through 15, my next reader, please.
And it came to pass that even the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay around about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as a small hoarfrost on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, and said to one another, it is manna, for they wist not know what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which Yahuwah hath given you to eat.
Hallelujah. Okay, so as aforementioned, the Messiah typifies the flesh that was given in the night. You know, so who typifies the manna that comes in the day? Say a lot. We'll get back to that later. Okay, but let's talk about this manna a little bit. First of all, it comes in the morning, and then it says in verse 13, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. Okay, so the dew lay round about the host. Now, what is this word dew? It's tal in the Hebrew, number 29:19, and it speaks to dew as covering vegetation. Now, how many of you know that we're called vegetation in Scripture. In Brit Kadashah, the Old Testament, we typify vegetation. Anybody remember what type of vegetation we typify?
Grass?
What type of grass?
Wheat.
Wheat, yes, absolutely. Wheatgrass, yeah. You know, also grapes, right? You know, because Yah is divine. Okay, so also grapes. Okay, so, you know, now the point being is this dew was a covering over the vegetation. Now, dew is what? Water. So we're talking about this water or counsel, if you would, that is over the vegetation. You know, and this is on it in the morning. But verse 14 says, and when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. Okay, so now the dew that was laid will dry up, and it has. You know, that dew that was covering the vegetation, you know, back in the day has dried up. And behold, the face of the wilderness, there lay a small thing, a small round thing. Okay, what does this mean by a small round thing as the hoarfrost on the ground? Well, small is dark. Number 1851, it means crushed, i.e. beat in pieces. You know, so the thing that's we call manna is something that's crushed, something that's beat in pieces. You know, that's what you do with grain too, right?
Yep.
You know, it's something that's crushed, something that's beat in pieces. It's round. This word is kaspas, and it actually doesn't mean round as in circular. It means to peel. Means to peel. Okay, and then it says it's as the hoarfrost on the ground. You know, hoarfrost comes from Kafur, number 3713. And it speaks properly to a cover. It's from kafar, which means to cover, specifically with bitumen. Now, bitumen was like a protective covering, you know. And so here it is. We see a picture of this manna, which is something that's allowed to be beat into pieces, something that's peeled away, something that covers to protect. And they called it manna. You know, verse 15 said, you know, when they saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, for they wist not what it was. You know, but Moshe, the one drawn out, said, this is the bread which Yahuwah have given you to eat. You know, he all excited about it, and they're like, what is it? You know. And manna means, is mon in Hebrew, number 4478, and it speaks to a whatness. That is, it speaks to, what is it? See, and this is important to understand because the children of Israel will not know what the true manna is. That's really important. You know, the children of Israel will not know what the true manna is. Just like they didn't know what the Messiah was. They're not going to know when that manna falls down in double portion on the 6th day. They're not going to know. This is what this teaches us. In case you were kind of picturing in your mind, you know, what it may have looked like when they were out there and they were gathering the manna. It may have looked something like this. Okay, so much for the 1,000 words. All right, let me have my next reader read Exodus 16 through 18, please.
This is the thing which Yahuwah hath commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, He gathered much, had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating.
Hallelujah. Okay. So, verse 16 told us, gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man. And it says the children of Israel did so and gathered some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered too little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And so hereby we learned that an omer represents a man, because it's an omer for every man. And it says every man according to his eating. What is eating? This eating from the Hebraic viewpoint. The word is okel. It's number 400 in the Strongs, and it means to eat, but it also speaks to burn up or consume. And so here it is. They're gathering this omer, and this omer speaks to men. So this is a spiritual picture of them eating or consuming or burning up men. And it plays into, those of Israel who will go through the fiery furnace, those who will be consumed, and this is what that speaks to. Now, omer, the word omer is 6016, and it means a heap. It speaks to the gathering of grain, and so, this can speak to, like, as far as the end times go, it could speak to the harvest, the end time harvest. Now, I want you to understand that the omer speaks to a gathering of grain, okay? It also speaks to a man. And it's also synonymous with the sheaf and with first fruits. When we look in Leviticus 23, 9 to 10, it says, Yahuwah said unto Moshe, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf. This word sheaf is actually omer, number 6016. Bring a sheaf of the first fruit. So first fruit. So omer is synonymous with man, and it's synonymous with first fruits. So you should bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. Now, I want you to know that our Messiah was a man, and he was also a type of sheaf, and he was also a type of first fruits.
Yes.
1 Corinthians 15:20. But now is Messiah risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. Now, we know if he was the first fruits, he was automatically a sheaf or an omer, because the first fruits was an omer. That's what was commanded to be brought. Now it's important to note, though, that even though Yahushua is an omer or sheaf for the first fruit, he isn't the first fruits of the spring harvest. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake at, in thinking because it says he's the first fruits that he must be the first fruit of the spring harvest. No, he's not. He's not the first fruit of the spring harvest. He's never depicted as flax or barley. Never. But rather as wheat and grapes, which comes in the summer. So he's not the first fruits of the spring harvest. Okay, verses 19 and 20 goes on to say, and Moshe said, let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moshe, but some of them left of it until the morning. And it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was wroth with them. Okay, so what does it mean, it bred worms? This word bread is room, number 7311. It means to be high. No, not that kind of high. As to rise or raise. Okay, and worms speak to Tola, and this just floored me right here when I seen that these worms was Tola, because Tola speaks to the crimson worm, or the crimson grub, crimson grub or worm, and this is a very special worm, in Scripture, because this worm represented our Messiah. Our Messiah was called this type of worm. When we take a look at Psalms 22, which speaks to the passion of our Messiah, it says. Verses 6 through 8 says, "But I am a worm. I am a Tola. And no man, a reproach of men, and despised of the people. And they that see me laugh me to scorn. They shoot out of the lip. They shake the head, saying, He trusted on Yahuwah that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him." So this is huge, because it speaks to what that manna is. See, they're gathering up that manna in heaps, in omers. The omer speaks to men that speaks to the sheaves of the first fruits offering. So we see a spiritual picture here of the men that make up the first fruit offerings of Elohim. And, those that are left over become as worms. Like the crimson grub. Now, the crimson grub, what was spectacular about this worm is that it would climb up on a tree. Hallelujah. Even as our Messiah climbed up on a tree. And it will sacrifice its life for his children. And it will hang up on that tree, knowing that it would never leave off that tree. And it would form a shell around his body. And the children that was born within it would actually literally consume the flesh of the crimson worm. And that's how they came to life. Beautiful picture, just like the Messiah did, and just how we're to eat off of his flesh, that we might enter into life. That's just a beautiful, beautiful picture. Awesome story and spiritual picture behind this crimson worm. Okay, now it also said that when they left it, that it stank. Now, it says stink, it says stank, and so it smelled real bad. All right, now this word stank is bawash. Numbers 8:87. It means to smell bad, but also figuratively it means to be offensive morally. See, and this manna, when it's left over, it becomes very offensive, morally. And that's why the people become disgusted at it, because, as with the worms, it stank, so morally they don't want to see that type of they don't want to do that type of thing, the worms, they view them as a reproach. They see them, they laugh at them, they shake their head at them, and they say, they do away with them and tell them to trust Yahuwah that he'll deliver them, knowing they're about to step on them or crush them, which is what the manna is anyway, crushed. So it's very beautiful spiritual picture in this. Let me have my next reader read verses 21 through 27, please.
And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omars for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said unto them, This is that which Yahuwah hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yahuwah. Bake that which ye will bake today, and see that ye will see, and that which remaineth overlay upon for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is the Sabbath unto Yahuwah. Today ye shall not find it in the field. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, and there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day to gather, and they found none.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we see it says when the sun waxed hot, it melted. What does it mean by melted? This word is marsas in the Hebrew number 4549, meaning to liquefy, figuratively to waste with disease, to faint with fatigue, to faint with fatigue, fear, or grief, to be loosed. You know, and it's actually a spiritual picture of what happens to that manner, or what happened to that manner, which can speak to the ecclesia in all actuality. When the sun waxed hot, when the persecution came, they wasted away. They fainted with fatigue, fear, or grief. They became loosed, and hence they're not in existence now. Verse 22 said, and it came to pass that on the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And it said, tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yahuwah. And guess what? They laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink. Neither was there any worm therein. And Moshe said, eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto Yahuwah. But on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. So there won't be any on the Sabbath day. So if you don't have enough to last you on the sixth day, you're going to have a problem when the Sabbath comes. Amen. Now, we know that Israel is a stiff-necked people. And so verse 37 tells us it came to pass that they went out anyway on the Sabbath for the gathering. And they found none. And verses 28 through 31, Yahuwah said unto Moshe, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? My commandments and my laws, my Torah. See, for Yahuwah hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the sixth day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna. And it was like coriander seed, white. And the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Now, coriander seed, this is what the manna was like. It was like coriander seed. The word is God, number 1404. But it's in the sense of cutting. It's in the sense of cutting coriander seed from its furrows. So it's in the sense of cutting the furrows. So what we're doing, we're talking about the planting of Elohim. It's cutting furrows. You cut furrows to plant. It also comes from Gadad, number 1461, meaning to crowd, also to gash as I'm pressing into, and so it also speaks to assemble cells by troops, gather cells in troops, to penetrate or cut, invade, to attack, okay? Now that's important because, we see the semblance of the manna, it speaks to people, in all actuality, and we see it said it was like wafers made with honey, even like the word, speaks to like bread with honey. That's sweet in your mouth is honey, but in your stomach made bitter, right? Now this is what coriander furrows would look like. These furrows would be cut so that the coriander could be planted, pressed into, cut into, to make these rows, these furrows, if you would. See, and that's what That's what the manna speaks to the coriander seed in respect to. Not so much in the seed itself in the way the seed look, but in the sense of how it's planted in these furrows. That's what it speaks to. Saying a lot of people go look, oh, coriander seed, that's what it looked like. No, that's not what it's saying. It's speaking to, this is the way it was. So I suppose this is the way it was on the ground. It was in like coriander seed, like in furrows. Now, verses 32 through 36 says, and Moshe said, this is the thing which Yahuwah commanded. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Mitzrayim. So they were commanded to take an omer of it, and that's an omer represents a man, right? It represents a heap, which represents a man, which represents a sheaf, which represents the first fruits, right? So we can see Yahshua in all that. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Israel. I want you to know and understand that the Messiah, he led Israel out of Mitzrayim just as Moshe did. He was the prophet like unto Moshe, and as Moshe led him out of bondage, so did Yahshua lead him out of bondage. It's just that a lot of them chose to stay in bondage. Many still choose to stay in bondage. But Scripture clearly teaches us that Messiah came to set the captives free. Now you can walk in that freedom, or you can choose not to. If you love your old slave master, then you're free to stay with him. But as for me and my house, we following Yah. We getting up out of here. Now, it goes on to say in verse 33, and Moshe and Aaron, Moshe said unto Aaron, take a pot and put an omer of manna, an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before Yahuwah to be kept for your generations. Where's that manna at now? Where's that pot with that manna in it? And as Yahuwah commanded Moshe, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept, and the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came into a land and inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is a 10th part of an ephah. So where is that pot full of manna?
In the wilderness.
I would think that is in your Bible, in the Scriptures. That is the testimony to the bread that they ate in the wilderness. And they did eat it 40 years. 40 speaks to tests and trials. Amen. Now it says, now an omer, letting you know, an omer is a 10th part of an ephah. See now, because the omer speaks to the manna, which speaks to a man, which speaks to a sheaf, which speaks to the first fruits. It's the 10th part of an ephah. Now, so every man was to get an omer, and so here it is. This is actually a spiritual picture, of a tithe. It's a tithe of an ephah. Now, remember that the manna was like coriander seeds, right? But not coriander seed in the sense of the seed itself, but as in conjunction with its furrows. Now, remember that the coriander, that the manna spoke to men, spoke to a sheaf, which spoke to first fruits. See, what I want you to see is that, like this coriander, this is how the manna was. And you know what it speaks to spiritually. Yah is building an army. He's building an army. When it spoke of him coming back in the cloud, speaking to a cloud of witnesses, that was pretty badly treated. But as Messiah, they're going to have their day. Amen.
Mm.
You know, so they've left from the place, you know, and this is just a recap of what we learned. You know, they've left from the place with strong palm trees to enter into a wilderness that is a place where they're driven to force their flesh into submission. This started Israel to begin complaining for the process of driving or forcing the flesh involves fasting. You know, the fasting process caused Israel to start wishing they had stayed and died in Egypt. You know, when you follow this way, you're going to kind of wish that you, at times, that you didn't. You're going to kind of wish that, you know, you could go back to the way things were, i.e. bondage. For at least there you had food to eat. That is, their flesh was satisfied. Now, due to this work that Yah is doing in their flesh, Israel began to take it out on those drawn out and those bringing light. You know, they always take it out on the servants. Now, to satisfy Israel's hunger, Yah promised to send them bread from heaven. Hence, the first day he sent them Yahushua and his many-member body for them to consume. On the sixth day, he'll send likewise them his 2 olive trees and 2 candlesticks that stand before Elohim. Candlesticks represent what? The churches. Israel is not going to be certain whether they are following Elohim or simply the one drawn out in the light bringer. Just like, you know, many of Israel wasn't certain that the Messiah was actually the Messiah and that they were following Elohim when they were following him, it's going to be likewise with the 2 witnesses. They're not going to be certain whether or not they're following Elohim or if they're just following, you know, these folks that's drawn out and is bringing them light. That is until the even. Until the tribulation is over. For afterward, that is in the morning, they shall see the Yahushua return. Then they'll know. When Israel complained of hunger against Moshe and Aaron, against the one that was drawn out in the light bringer, they were in fact complaining against Yah. Does you no good to complain against the servants of Yah. Yah heard it and answered in the cloud of witnesses, promising them a Messiah that is flesh in the evening and bread in the morning. Israel had no problem understanding the flesh he sent them in the evening, but did not understand the bread that he sent in the morning. And that's how it's going to be when this bread is presented in the morning, as it's been being presented, and they don't understand it. They understand the flesh, yes, of course. You know, that's the Passover lamb, you know. It's the fulfillment of what happened during the time of Moshe. Yeah, understand that, but they don't understand the bread that comes in the morning. They don't understand those people who put it all on the line, who allow themselves to be crushed, who allow themselves to be persecuted for Yah's name's sake. They don't understand that. Now, after the dew, i.e. its covering had dried up, they found the manna, that is Yah's bread from heaven, crushed and beat to pieces, peeled from the flesh, yet preserved. They didn't know what to call it, for they were unfamiliar with its nature. You know, one that would lay down their lives for their friends. So they called it manna. That is, what is this? They were commanded to gather it by the omer or the sheaf for each man, for it represents a man, even the Messiah, and they were also commanded to eat it. That is, to do the teachings and instructions from it. But that which was left over will rise up and become the crimson worms of Elohim. They will be offensive morally to Israel, a reproach, despised of Israel, laughed at, scorned by Israel. Yet these are they which Yah will redeem. Whenever the sun wax hot, that is, tests and trials come about due to the word the word concerning the kingdom of Elohim, many will be wasted with disease and become faint and from fatigue and fear. But on the sixth day, hallelujah. But on the sixth day, Yah will send twice as much. That is 2 men from heaven instead of 1. This will be the 2 witnesses and the 2 candlesticks of Revelation 11. But this time, when the sun wax hot, they will not waste away. They will not become faint from fatigue or fear. They will not be as the crimson worms. Rather, they'd be like manna. They'll be like the Messiah, like bread from heaven. They'll be like the coriander furrows. They'd be like the tithe of Israel that belongs to Yah. And Yah will use them to make an army of Elohim, white with righteousness. The embodiment of the teachings and instructions of Yahuwah Elohim and his son, Yahushua our Messiah. The true manna. The true bread of heaven. That's all I have for you. Pray.